Hi everyone and welcome to the 6th episode of Japanese Phonetics by Dogen. In this lesson, I would like to introduce the 2 basic Japanese pitch accent rules as well as the 4 fundamental Japanese pitch accent patterns. Let's get straight into it. Rule number 1. The pitch of the first and second mora of every single standalone word is always different. Thus, any word that starts with a low pitch immediately rises in pitch, and any word that starts with a high pitch immediately drops in pitch. Let's look at a few examples of this rule now.
花、花、花。電気、電気、電気。お菓子、お菓子、お菓子。男、男、男。学生、学生、学生。
Again, no standalone word in Japanese will ever start with 2 consecutive low or 2 consecutive high mora. Any word that starts low immediately goes high, and any word that starts high immediately goes low. All right, rule number 2. If a standalone word experiences a downstep or drop in pitch, then the pitch will never go back up within that word. Thus, in terms of acceptable pitch accent patterns in Japanese, low to high is okay, high to low is okay, low, high, low is okay, but high, low, high is not. At the individual word level, the high, low, high pitch pattern doesn't exist in Japanese. Let's look at a few examples of this rule now using the words that we just saw, this time attaching the particle ga to the end of each word. Again, notice how low, high, low exists, but high, low, high does not.
花が、花が、花が。電気が、電気が、電気が。お菓子が、お菓子が、お菓子が。男が、男が、男が。学生が、学生が、学生が。
Again, at the individual word level, if a downstep or drop in pitch occurs, then the pitch will never go back up within that word. In other words, at the individual word level, once a downstep occurs, pitch stays low. Okay, now what you've been waiting for, the 4 fundamental Japanese pitch accent patterns. Up until now, we've been saying high to low, low, high, low, etc. to generally talk about the various pitch accent patterns that exist in Japanese, but from this point forward, we're going to be using the actual specific Japanese terms and breaking down each of them in detail. And we'll be starting with the atamadaka, or head-high pattern. In this pattern, the pitch of the word's first mora is high, and the pitch of all remaining mora, including the particle, are low. Here are some native recordings of words that use the atamadaka pattern.
目が、目が、目が。春が、春が、春が。電気が、電気が、電気が。世界が、世界が、世界が。挨拶が、挨拶が、挨拶が。スーパーが、スーパーが、スーパーが。
If we tried to say the English words America is using the atamadaka pitch accent pattern, pretending that the word is a particle, then it would sound something like this.
America is. America is. America is. America is.
In my opinion, Atamadaka is the easiest pitch accent pattern for native English speakers to mimic, as there are many words in English, such as the word English, that start with a relatively high pitch and then drop, again, as in English. That said, English is a stress accent language, so in English, accented syllables tend to be significantly louder and longer than the surrounding syllables, as in English, so it's difficult to make a direct comparison. The Atamadaka pattern is indicated by a number 1 in Japanese to Japanese dictionaries. More on this in Lesson 7. Okay, pitch accent pattern number 2, Nakadaka, or middle high. In this pattern, the word's first mora has a low pitch, the second mora has a high pitch, and then somewhere in the word, a downstep or drop in pitch occurs. Particles will always attach low. Examples.
日本が、日本が、日本が、おにぎりが、おにぎりが、おにぎりが、アパートが、アパートが、アパートが、納豆が、納豆が、納豆が、コーヒーが、コーヒーが、コーヒーが、日本人が、日本人が、日本人が。
If we use America is, again, we can create 2 Nakadaka pronunciations of this word set. One with the downstep on the second mora, as in
America is. America is. America is. America is.
and another pronunciation with the downstep on the third mora, as in
America is. America is. America is. America is.
Now, it's important to note that although we just created 2 Nakadaka pronunciations of America is, essentially all Nakadaka words only have one correct pitch accent pattern. So, rice balls or
おにぎりが、
is always pronounced with this pitch accent pattern and never with this pitch accent pattern, even though both of these are Nakadaka pitch accent patterns as a downstep is occurring somewhere in the middle of the word. Again, individual Nakadaka words almost always have only one correct pitch accent pattern. In some words like rice balls,
おにぎりが、
this downstep occurs almost immediately, but in other words like Japanese people,
日本人が、
this downstep occurs towards the end of the word. Native English speakers typically don't have too much trouble with the Nakadaka pattern, as again, there are many English words, such as America, that have a bump in pitch in the middle of the word. Remember, however, that English accents are louder and longer than Japanese accents, as in America. So again, it's difficult to make a direct comparison. I'll be explaining how Nakadaka words are indicated in Japanese to Japanese dictionaries in Lesson 7. Okay, pitch accent pattern number 3, Odaka, or tail high. In this pattern, the word's first mora has a low pitch, the second mora has a high pitch, and all remaining mora within the word have a high pitch. However, the particle then attaches with a low pitch. Examples.
花が、花が、花が、男が、男が、男が、女が、女が、女が、言葉が、言葉が、言葉が、 弟が、妹が、妹が、妹が。
If we said our phrase, America is, with the odaka pattern, it would sound something like this.
America is. America is. America is. America is.
I personally believe that odaka is the most difficult pattern for native English speakers to mimic, as there's really nothing like it in English. Thus, if you are a native English speaker just getting started with your pitch accent studies, then I would highly suggest watching the previous native recording section of this lesson with the odaka words on repeat multiple times a day for at least a couple weeks, or until you feel like you're really starting to internalize the odaka pattern. Like the nakadaka pattern, I'll be explaining how odaka words are indicated in Japanese to Japanese dictionaries in Lesson 7. And that leaves us with the final pitch accent pattern, hebang, or flat/monotone. In this pattern, the word's first mora has a low pitch, and all remaining mora in the word and the following particle have a high pitch. That said, the rise in pitch at the beginning of the word is usually quite gentle, even though standard binary pitch accent graphics like this can make it look quite dramatic. I'll talk more about why we're using binary pitch accent graphics in this series in episode 6.3. For now, just know that the initial rise in pitch in hebang words typically isn't very dramatic, and that because of this, hebang words often exhibit very little change in pitch in actual everyday speech. This, of course, is why they're called hebang, or flat/monotone. Examples.
かが、かが、かが、国が、国が、国が、会社が、会社が、会社が、学生が、学生が、学生が、アメリカが、アメリカが、アメリカが、日本語が、日本語が、日本語が。
If we say our America is word set with the hebang pattern, it would sound something like this.
America is, America is, America is, America is.
The hebang pattern is often difficult for native English speakers to mimic at first because we're used to words having some kind of accent, but most people sort of wake up to this pattern after realizing that it's quite monotone or even, in some circumstances, robot-like. As in, again,
America is, America is, アメリカが、アメリカが。
hebang words are indicated in Japanese to Japanese dictionaries with a 0. So, atamadaka, nakadaka, odaka, and hebang. At this point, it may be worth mentioning that many pitch accent resources use the term kifukushiki to group the atamadaka, nakadaka, and odaka patterns into a patterns with downsteps group, but we don't need to worry about this term, kifukushiki, just yet. Okay, so now we have a basic understanding of the 4 Japanese pitch accent patterns. What's next? Phonetic awareness. Now that we know that these 4 pitch accent patterns exist in Japanese, we have to start actively listening for them in speech. Over time, this active listening process will develop our ability to discern and thus mimic each of these patterns in a natural way. Once again, the 4 Japanese pitch accent patterns are atamadaka, or head high, as in
世界が、世界が、世界が。
nakadaka, or middle high, as in
日本が、日本が、日本が、
Odaka, or tail high, as in
言葉が、言葉が、言葉が、
and hebang, or flat/monotone, as in
学生が、学生が、学生が。
Alright guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you found it useful. For those that don't know, this is a remake of the original lesson 6 of this series, as the original lesson was a little bit lacking in quality, and I thought that for at least when introducing the 4 fundamental Japanese pitch accent patterns, it would be best to use native speech. For more information about the next release of Japanese Phonetics, as well as some additional relevant updates, please check the Patreon post below this video. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I look forward to speaking with you all again soon.